Hello everyone, today's geometry lesson involves volume of prisms, but more specifically, backwards problems. You may recall from previous lessons, backwards problems are where normally you'd be looking for the volume and multiplying things together. Well, now I'm going to give you the volume and we got to work backwards in order to find what was missing. So you can see from my picture here, we're starting with a rectangular prism, and I have two examples for you today. This is the first. And in the rectangular prism, we can see that the length of our base shape, the base being a rectangle, I colored it in yellow, the base length is 14 centimeters, but the width is missing. So I called it W. And the height of our prism is 4. So let's get started. We know the volume of this prism. The final answer is 392 cubic centimeters. So I'm going to start first by writing the general formula for volume of a prism. Capital B times capital H, base times height. And now I've got to change this a little bit because if you recall from my previous video, if you saw it, this capital B really stands for area of the base shape of your prism. Well, we just said the base shape of our prism is a rectangle. So let's change our formula a little bit. So this capital B represents, and I'll put it in parentheses, the rectangle, the yellow rectangle. And we know the area of a rectangle is length times width. And then on the outside, we still have times the height of our prism. And most of you probably already knew this. The formula for volume of a prism, any rectangular prism or cube, is length times width times height. Now, when I'm working backwards, I always start with the formula. I have the entire formula written out. Once I have the formula written out, then I go in and underneath each letter plug in what I know. Well, we know the volume, it was given to us. So 392 cubic centimeters. We know the length of the base rectangle, so I'm going to write that in 14 times. We don't know the W, but we do know the prism's height, 4. Now, here's what's great about this side of our equation. It's all multiplication. So the order that we multiply doesn't matter. So I'm going to rewrite 392. I'm going to bring that down, bring down my equal sign. And I'm going to multiply 14 times 4 and get 56 times W, or 56W. Now, this technically reads as 392 equals 56 times W. So how do we break up this times? Well, we divide by 56. On this side, we're good. It cancels. And we bring down the W, bring down our equal. So what is 392 divided by 56? And we get an answer of 7. So our final answer, the missing width, is 7, and don't forget units, centimeters. All right, our second example. Now, first let's start with, you may recall prisms are always named by their base shape. So take a look at that base shape. I colored it in green for you. What is this prism? What type of prism is this? And hopefully you said pentagonal prism. Because a pentagon has 5 sides, and so does this base. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is a pentagonal prism. Now, I'm not going to show you how to do the volume of a pentagon. That's much harder than what we need to know here. But what we really need to know, and if you remember on the previous example, I started with the general formula for area of a prism, and it's capital B times capital H. This capital B, again, represents the area of your base shape, the entire base shape, its area. Well, they gave it to us. It's right here. The area of our base shape is 312. So let's plug in what we know. They tell us up here the volume of our formula is 4,680 cubic inches. So I'm going to write that right under the V. 4,680 equals. This represents the area of the base, which they gave us is 312. And what's missing is the height of our prism, the capital H. Well, let's just put that on the end. And once again, just like the last example, this reads as 4,680 equals 312 times H. How do we break off the times? By dividing by 312. But what we do to one side, we do to the other. And we put that in a calculator, and when we do, let me bring down my H, my equals, and we get 15. So our final answer, the missing height, is the height equals 15 inches. Don't forget your units. And we're done with the lesson.